Yeah. Welcome to the Racer X Exhaust Podcast brought to you by Yoshimura. I'm Jason Weigandt. I feel like the normal high energy coming at you theme to the beginning of this show, I don't know if that fits accurately our times. These are obviously weird times. I think now, a couple weeks into the quarantine, like 2, we're all starting to adjust. I've actually found myself enjoying some parts of it, which I never thought I would say, spending more time with my kids and family than I usually get to when you're just shuttling them off to school in the morning. Obviously, it's making me pull my hair out at times, too, as I'm trying to get work done while also homeschooling. But obviously, extra family time, there's a certain silver lining to getting more of that. So I'm not exactly sure where we are on the depth chart, the emotional roller coaster that was seen throughout this COVID-19 thing. Although I definitely know it's not awesome. So, yeah, I'm just going to chill a little bit on the energy levels before this podcast. But the good thing is there is more time to consume more content. And I also feel that we're getting better interviews, more subjects, more things rolling in because everyone in the industry has more time on their hands to talk to media. So a lot of good stuff coming up on the Racer X Exhaust Podcast brought to you by Yoshimura over the next couple of weeks, including this one. This is as big as it gets. This is an interview with the Senior Director of Motorsports Two-Wheel, Dave Prater, from Feld Entertainment. They're the folks that run Supercross. Now, Dave has been at this for a long time. I started working at all the Supercross races in 2005. By then, he had already been established, I feel, for a little while. So even though the ownership of Supercross has changed through the years, it's been Dave and above him, Todd Gendro, essentially running the races, or the boss guys that we consider at the races, for a long time. So Dave knows Supercross inside and out. And it was really good that Feld this week brought him through the media car wash, interviewed with me, interviewed with Pulp, interviewed with Swap Moto, interviewed with MXA, interviewed with everybody that you could think of to get the word out on what Supercross is doing for the rest of this season. And that is the goal, to get in the rest of the season. They do not want to crown a champion after just 10 rounds. They want to race all 17. Most likely scenario is to race in the fall. So my conversation with Dave here coming up in a moment. You might have read this on RacerX Online on a Monday if you're a reader. But if you're a listener, here you go. And also shout out to Yoshimura, our title sponsor. This is interesting. This week, announcing a bicycle line. Pedals. The Chaleo pedal, made in the USA. This is as top of the line as a mountain bike pedal can possibly be. And it's made in the USA. I did hear there is a bearing in there that I believe comes out of Japan. But every other part is developed and made in the USA. I've been to the Yoshimura factory. They make their exhaust systems in the United States, in California as well. It's just really cool, and I might need a set of flat pedals because I have clips on my mountain bike because I'm so gnarly. But because my kids are starting to mountain bike now, I'm so tough, I'm so gnarly, I'm in such good shape, don't need clips to be able to beat the kids on the mountain bike trails. It'd be nice to have a little versatility. Flat pedals, maybe that's where it's at. So go to Yoshimura-RD.com for all your motorcycle stuff, and go to yoshimuracycling.com for information on the Chaleo pedals for your mountain bike. They've also got other biking stuff, some kit. Is that what they call it, right? Clothing, attire. So that's Yoshimura. Thanks to them and everyone in this industry for pitching in, keeping on board throughout the tough times that we're dealing with right now. And now I'm going to send it to my interview with Dave Prater. We did this over Skype, by the way. So, hey, man, it's me. Technology, I'm not very good at it. I'll leave that to people like Yoshimura for coming up with high-tech stuff. Me, Skype interview didn't sound as good as I wanted it to be, but you'll still hear everything Dave has to say. Here we go. I guess we'd start with the main point. The goal here is to get more races in. Could you explain that? That's the goal?
Yeah, the goal is to finish the season and complete 17 rounds of racing.
Yep.
So that's what we went into 2020 with. That was the goal. That was the plan all along, and we don't want to defer from that plan. We want to get those 17 events in. We think it's important to the fans, to the teams, to the riders, to the industry as a whole. So that's our goal, and that's what we're working toward.
Was there any point in this where it seemed like that wasn't going to happen, where you guys are like, there's just no way and we're done? Or has that always been the task at hand?
No, I don't think it's come to that. I think that's always been the task at hand. As you know, and the world knows, this thing has happened so quickly and it's so fluid. Sean and I were just talking about it the other day, like literally Thursday morning, March 12th, he had riders in early morning in television studios doing interviews about the Indianapolis round of Supercross. And by 10:30 or so, we kind of saw there was going to be an issue. By 3:30, it was racing without fans in the stadium. And then, by 4:30, 5 o'clock, we had to pull the plug. So it just happened so quickly that we were just reacting to everything that was coming at us, like everyone in the world was at the time. So it never really crossed our mind not to finish the season. We always had that in the plan. We just knew that it was going to evolve, and it continues to evolve even today. So that's the plan, and that's what we're working toward. And hopefully we'll be setting at Anaheim in 2021, talking about what a great season 2020 was.
That's pretty noble that you guys are still like going for the gold. Now, the Lucas Oil Pro Motocross pushed back to June 13th. Is there an attempt to get races in like before that, or is that just too short a notice? We don't even know if we'll be able to race in May. We might not be able to race June 13th either. So do you have an idea of when you're going to try to get these in? Like before that, after that, during that? Any idea?
Again, I think it's so fluid, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
So originally, when this all happened a couple weeks ago, it was great. We've been working with MX Sports, and we're on the phone with Kerry and Davey, and they've been fantastic. They were able to move the start of their season back to June 13th in hopes that we could get a few rounds in prior to that.
Yeah.
But as the things developed over the next several days, if not week, we realized that's probably not realistic. I don't want to say it's completely out of the question at this point,
right?
But it looks challenging for us to be able to get anything in Supercross-wise prior to that first event on June 13th.
So after is probably more likely at this point?
Yeah, we just have to work with what windows we have. So at present, it looks like whenever Lucas Oil Pro Motocross finishes up, that'll be our window to get those 7 rounds of Supercross in.
Man. Okay, so I've heard, like, you guys are talking to the teams quite a bit, right? Has that been the main point of communication? Sounds like you're keeping them in the loop pretty well.
Yeah, I think, as our partners, they're an integral part of this whole thing. So we set up our first conference call that day, that Thursday before Indy, just to keep everybody informed of what was going on. We spoke to them a couple times, maybe 2, if not 3 times that day, just as things were developing. So I know the first call was, hey, it looks like we may be racing in front of an empty stadium.
Yeah.
So, and then my last call was, hey, don't put any more people on a plane because we're not racing in Indy this weekend. So, yeah, it's been important. And I think Mike Buey and myself, we've set up bi-weekly conference calls with the teams. We're going to continue those for as long as is necessary. And we'll continue to keep everyone informed and get their feedback on things as well, because we're all in this together. I know that seems obvious. I think the world is in this together, but obviously as an industry, we're all in this together, and we're all just watching it play out and seeing what works best for the sport of Supercross and motocross as a whole.
How have the teams been? Like, obviously, I would imagine they're a little scared. Points are close. Oh, man, we got to race one series and then come back. Did you get pushback on that, or are they like, hey, we understand that May just might not even be an option? Like, what do you get when you throw out some of these ideas of what you might be able to pull off?
Yeah, I think like anyone, and like probably everyone listening to this interview, we've all had to adapt, and it happened so quick that I think at first when people said, hey, we're going to cancel Indy Supercross for the fans, everyone was a bit upset, including ourselves. We didn't want that to happen, but then we realized, hey, that's going to be a reality. We're going to have to deal with it. So then we were planning on racing without fans in the stadium. And then that looked like it was in jeopardy, and ultimately we had to pull the plug on that. So we didn't like that at first.
Right.
But had to accept it and deal with it. And I think it was the same way with the teams. We were all kind of feeling the exact same way. Like I can tell you from our point of view, we didn't want to race later on in the year. We didn't want to go race motocross and then come back with Supercross or any of that. But as the situation developed, we realized that we're going to have to adapt, and we're going to have to be as fluid as possible with the situation, because I think everybody's tired of the word unprecedented, but it truly is unprecedented. And we're going to have to roll with the punches and do what we can. And so as those conversations continued throughout the week, everyone started to realize that, hey, we're going to have to make this work in whatever way we can. And so, like you said, that attitude at first, and myself included, was like, no, we got to do it this way.
Yeah.
And after 4 or 5 calls, I think everybody's on the same page of, hey, we're just going to have to watch this situation, take a pause and step back and adjust as it unfolds and we get more information.
Well, what I think we've learned here is from all sides, everyone wants to race. You know, riders don't, I don't know how, say, their contracts work, but they certainly don't get bonus money for winning races if there aren't races. And I'm sure there's TV money or sponsor money, and that includes motocross also. What we've really learned here is we've never thought of the idea of only getting in fewer races than scheduled, because it never happened before. But I think we learned when everybody realized how bad it would be to not race, everyone voted we want to race, not, we'll save some travel budget by not going to the races. It seems universal that everyone wants to race from all sides.
Yeah, no, that was from the first phone call, that was unanimous.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, when we had to cancel Indy, I didn't know what to expect. I thought maybe we'd have a 50-50. Half the teams would want to go race and half the teams want to call it. But it was unanimous from Jump Street. Everyone was like, no, we need to get 7 in. And that was the surprising thing to me. It wasn't, I don't think I heard anyone say, no, let's just race 5. Let's race 2 more. Let's race a portion of them. So it's been unanimous from the beginning that everyone wants to complete the 17 rounds. And like I said, that's the goal.
Okay, so the hard part is, how do you find venues? And not being able to nail down dates, how the heck do you find venues? Because that's obviously the whole thing that makes Supercross what it is. How do you find stadiums?
That's the toughest part, Jason, right now, is just trying to stay as fluid with this situation and adapt as quickly as possible. So obviously it's what everyone knows, that there are other tenants in these stadiums, and Major League Baseball has postponed the beginning of their season. So who's to say how that will affect the season as a whole, how long it will go. Will it go into November, December instead of just October?
Yep.
So there's that. The NFL, we've all got our fingers crossed that it doesn't affect the NFL season, being August, September.
Right.
But it's going to be a challenge because you've got the NFL coming up, and you've got college football, and like I said, Major League Baseball. So there are quite a few venues out there that we work with. We have great relationships with most, if not all, the major stadiums in the country. And we literally have been going down through, I was joking with Sean, so our routing and tours folks, we have a list of all the stadiums that we can race in. And we had exhausted that list. And I said, look, I got on my computer and hit Wikipedia, but North American stadiums.
Oh my gosh.
And so I literally went down, and I think there was a couple, maybe 2 or 3 we didn't have. Unfortunately, those 2 or 3 wouldn't work for us, but we've got a handful that we're looking at, and we're gonna have to wait on some things. We're gonna have to wait on, the NFL's schedule doesn't come out till April 17th, so that those pieces will fall into place. Mm-hmm. The other thing is we're gonna have to wait on these local governments and see when the restrictions on public gatherings are gonna relax. So really, it's kind of a moving target at the moment. So we've got, like I said, an initial plan, or plans, multiple. And as things slide into place and we learn that schedules of other leagues or other venues have solidified, then we'll start going from there and nailing it down. But unfortunately, at this point, I really don't have any answers on where we're gonna hold these 7 events.
Are there any options that are like definitely out? Like we had heard, they could race during the week, or they could do double headers, or they could have a bunch of rounds in the same building. Are all options on the table, or are there a few things you've already said, nah, that's not going to work? Or could we see any combination of things?
I think you could see any combination of things. I think the one thing that's probably out, again, I don't want to say anything's off the table, but the thing that we're trying to steer clear of are double headers. Like after talking to the teams and after the teams get some feedback from their riders, we're going to do everything we can to stay away from double headers.
Wow.
So that's the plan there. That was one of our initial thoughts when we had to cancel Indy, and I'll tell you how naive we all were. We assumed that we were going to go to Detroit the next weekend and race Detroit. So what better way to get Indy in than to go in on Sunday and run a doubleheader like we used to do? But obviously that did not happen. So, but that's where the doubleheader came from. The doubleheader scenario came from.
But these don't necessarily have to be Saturday races. You obviously don't know for sure, but who knows?
No, they don't have to be.
Yeah.
And who knows?
Yeah.
We could race, depending on what time of year we race. You've got some major competition in the NFL and college football on Saturdays and Sundays. So, we're keeping all of our options open. You have to at this point.
Yeah. Do you know if you could get, let's say, technically an NFL stadium, this is super simplifying it. They only play half of their games at home. So if a stadium was empty on a road weekend, can you get in and out so quickly that an NFL team almost wouldn't notice? I don't know if they're allowed to do that or they want to take that chance, but is that something you could do, like get in and out in 3 days so they don't even realize you were there kind of thing?
It would depend.
Yeah.
Like week 10, doing that multiple weeks.
Right.
I don't know if that's feasible.
Yeah.
But the other part is depending on what the surface that we go in on is. So like Houston, where you go in on the concrete floor, you could do it much quicker than when you have to go in and protect the artificial turf. So there's so many variables in this thing. When you start thinking about it all at once, it can get overwhelming. So like I said, we're trying to wait for those different things to drop and solidify, one being the NFL schedule. But as those things drop, we can start narrowing it down.
So the idea of having a couple races in the same place, though, that's not out? That could happen, maybe?
Definitely not out. It could definitely happen. Mm-hmm. Again, I think we're going to be limited to the number of venues that we can race in. So we have to keep that on the table.
What you cannot do, and you've probably seen it yourself, I've actually had fans ask me this. You can't just go to the test tracks and hold races in Corona, California or at Baker's Factory, right?
We can do anything.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't think that's what we want to do.
Okay.
For multiple reasons, but I think we want to keep the integrity of the sport, keep Supercross, and Supercross is in a stadium, and that's what we want to do. Not to mention just the overall cost of trying to wire a test track for a television show.
Oh.
It would be outrageous. So, So far, that's off the table. Like I said, I'm not going to say that it wouldn't come back on the table, but it's highly unlikely.
Right. Everything is somewhat on the table at this point. Nothing has been stricken.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we did hear that once the shutdown began and live events were going to stop, that Feld let a lot of employees go. So when you get to do races, if you get to do races, how would that work? Would people be brought back and you do it with less people? Like how? Because people saw that and think, oh my gosh, this is a sign that they can't do races anymore. Is that as bad as that sounds, or is it still possible to do these? Obviously, you're planning on doing them.
Yeah, no, it's possible. And, unfortunately, with all the widespread government mandated closures and public gatherings, like we were forced to shut down all of our tours company-wide. And so we had to make some difficult decisions and reduce the size of our workforce. But yeah, like I said, the whole plan is to resume operations. Now, when that'll happen, I can't tell you today. But
right.
When it does happen, we will be able to produce Supercross, definitely.
Oh, so people could be brought back, or you could just do it with fewer people. I think people don't realize how many staff it takes to do one of these races. It's a lot.
Yeah. It takes a lot. Yeah, it definitely takes a lot, but we'll be ready. And
okay.
We'll be ready. We'll have the people necessary to do.
Right. So what we're getting at is that's not an obstacle. If you find the buildings and everybody, the teams and stuff are on board, that's not a problem running the event.
Not an obstacle. We'll make it happen.
Gotcha. Okay. Man, for day to day, I mean, we got the details in, and I appreciate that. I mean, day to day, what do you do right now? I mean, it's got to be odd. You're usually probably hair on fire going from one city to another. Are you more busy now? Are you less? Like what? This is so weird. What is the day to day for you right now?
The day to day is just working on several different scenarios. So
yeah.
Working on basic budgets. Obviously, there are multiple factors that go into a budget depending on what city and what venue you're racing at.
Yeah.
However, there are, some costs that stay the same. So
yeah.
Working on multiple different budget plays, budget scenarios for finishing the 2020 season, as well as last week, Mike Mewey and myself got together, and we're full speed ahead on the 2021 as well. So
right.
We're planning 2021, working on that schedule with our scheduling folks here in the office. But really just keeping ourselves busy and keeping ourselves prepared, because depending on when we do finish these 7 races, depending on that time frame, it may not allow us a lot of time to prep for 2021. So let's do whatever we can now to get ready for 21. And, if it pushes later in the year, we'll be ready to hit the ground running
right.
January 9th in Anaheim.
So the goal is to get these championship rounds in. Do you know where Monster Cup falls in this? Or is that date and that venue, is that like, oh, good, at least we got one place locked in. Where does that fall into this? Does Monster Cup go away? Does that get used as an actual race? That's got to be one little fallback you have. At least you got a stadium booked one time.
Yeah, that's one of those that's on the table, and it's a fallback for multiple different things.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to depend on the time frame in which we get these 7 races in, and where we are in the country. So, it's nice to have that as a fallback and that date locked in. But depending on where we're going or where we're coming from, we'll have to see.
Okay, so that's some relief, but even that doesn't make it super easy.
No, it doesn't, but it is nice to have at least one locked-in venue for the time being. Again, it goes back to scheduling. So Dignity Health Park is an MLS venue. So depending on what MLS does and when they're able to start, and if their season is interrupted at all, that could adjust as well. So that's another one we're in constant communication with the venue, and they're going to let us know if and when anything happens with that schedule.
I say this to several riders, and this includes even myself, all of us that are used to going to races. What sense of euphoria are you going to have when you're standing on the floor and a race is actually taking place? I mean, it's going to be like the happiest feeling ever, even though we've all been to 1,000 races. The sense of euphoria is going to be amazing when we're all just at a race again.
I know, Jason. It's so funny. I think if there's something, this whole situation, not to get too philosophical, but it's teaching us so many things. And for me, it's just, don't take anything for granted.
Yep.
Like you said, I'm going to be so happy. I'll be down on track walk with a big ear-to-ear grin. And, and the thing is, my goal is, even after we've raced 2, 3, 7 times, to just remember that and remember how fortunate and privileged we are to get to do what we get to do. And I wish I was sitting here talking to you about Seattle Supercross this morning, rather than this situation. But we're going to get through it, and I can tell you that we're all going to be happy. We're all going to be loving life, and just we'll all realize how truly fortunate we are when we get to round 11. Hopefully that's soon.
That's right. Boom, there it is. Dave Prater from Feld. That's awesome. He spent Monday and I think half of Tuesday doing nothing but media interviews. That's a good step. I think people have known that Supercross is owned by a company for a long time. It's always been owned by someone, but we haven't had a lot of media sessions and press conferences that are led by those. So shout out actually to the PR man over there, Sean Brennan, for setting that up, and he also gave Racer X the first shot. And also thanks to Dave for the time. I've known Dave for a long time. I got a lot of respect for him. And the honesty is good. They don't know when they're going to go racing, but now we know that they are going to go racing. What is odd to me, by the way, is that when we posted this interview online as written form on Monday, I thought people would be over the moon over this. I thought people would be super pumped. We're going to get more racing, right? I thought that was noble. I did see a bit of a chorus of people that do not like this split season idea. And absolutely, it is not ideal. But I think Dave spoke to that in this. Obviously, the teams, especially if you're Kawasaki and Honda and you're battling for the Supercross title, of course you don't want to go race motocross first and then come back and race Supercross after. That's not ideal. And in an ideal situation, which is every other year where we're not dealing with this, we don't do that, right? One series ends, one series begins. At least according to Dave here, the teams have figured out, look, this is a bastardized season. It's not going to be ideal. It's not going to be the way it should go, but we've all just got to take whatever we can get. I don't think it's possible. Here's the problem. I think it's easier to set up a Lucas Oil Pro Motocross race, and yes, in full disclosure, Racer X, MX Sports Pro Racing that runs those races, and us here at Racer X, sister companies, and yes, I do the TV broadcasting for that series. My theory is it's a lot easier to set up a motocross race on the fly. We don't know exactly where we're going to be June 13th when the Nationals are now scheduled to begin. Should be ready. Hopefully we'll be ready by then. But if they're not ready by then, to tell a motocross track, we're going to need, it might have to be July 1st or it might have to be August, whatever. To shift things around, I think, is a little bit easier for a motocross promoter that owns a track that runs this race every year. The Nationals, I feel, can be more nimble in changing their dates as we chase the shutdowns over this virus. Booking stadiums, much more complicated. So I think Feld said, look, we want the maximum lead time. We might need 2 or 3 months to put this together. They want to know, say July 1, that they're good to go, and then that gives them all of July and August to get stadiums booked for September. I think they wanted the maximum lead time, whereas motocross can be more nimble and can work with a little bit less. So hopefully June 13th, that'd be awesome if we're racing at WW Ranch in Florida for the opener of the motocross championship. That'd be great. But I think they were willing to take that risk, the Nationals, is saying, we'll try June. Hopefully June works. If June doesn't work, we'll work something else out. I think Supercross wanted more lead time. You just got to understand that it is what it is. Is it the most fair way to determine a champion by giving, 2-3 months off in the middle of the season? Of course it's not the most fair. But people, this is dirt bike racing. It is not nearly as serious as all the things that are going on. Whoever wins the title under this circumstance, you're going to be a gnarly dude. You're going to have run the gauntlet. If it's Roczen, if it's Tomac, even Cooper Webb or Barsha, whoever is mathematically still in it, you're going to have earned it. I would rather have more racing than less racing. Is this ideal? No. But I think at least the industry is realizing we're not going to get ideal this year. And I don't think you can find any team, any rider, any sponsor that says, I vote for just this do 10 races and end it. And if you're a fan, I don't understand. If you have a choice of more rounds in September and October or not racing anymore, I think you'd take the more races, right? What the heck? September Supercross? I'd rather have that than September not Supercross. So this will be fun to kind of watch unfold. I thought when I posted this interview on Monday that there would be universal acclaim. Hey, that's awesome. Season's not over. Feld's going to come back and get this thing done. That's great. It shouldn't be a 10-round championship. I saw things go both ways. I did hear some people saying, you know how it is on the internet. Everyone complains about everything. No, I don't actually agree with that. I don't. I have great interactions with people on social media. I don't get heat. It's mostly good. It's actually, a lot of it is constructive. The comment section on a RacerX site, there's debate, but it's not 90% negative. So I believe there is some room in the internet where you do see a variety of opinions. I was just surprised how this one went. I'm just telling you, nothing is going to be perfect this year, and nothing is going to be ideal. We just have to take what we can get. This is the only way it's going to work. I'm glad, if it works, that it's working at all. That's better than throwing in the towel and saying we're done. In the meantime, support your friendly local business. Yeah, how about that? Made in the USA. Yoshimura-RD.com for your exhaust needs for your motorcycle, for your ATV, and Yoshimura Cycling, now just open, just available for the new Chileo pedals. It's actually named after a badass trail that the Yoshimura guys actually used on their mountain bikes to develop this pedal. That's a little insider gossip that I got from those folks. So we'll be back with a lot more. So keep listening to us while you're not driving to work or school anymore.